Just another brother with another humble question. Just another brother with another humble question.
Welcome to another episode of A Brother with Questions. I am your host, B. Period. I appreciate you for joining me. We're going to dive into this video talking about Vice President Harris here in a moment. But before I get going, let me ask you to like and subscribe to the channel. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and then share with your friends, share with your family. Go share what this crazy dude is talking about, man. Like this dude over here. This black dude apparently don't like Vice President Harris. What is he talking about? Let's dive in. Here she is. She went to the All the Smoke podcast. For anybody that doesn't know, that is a podcast done by two former NBA athletes, Matt Barnes, Steven Jackson. They actually do a really good job in terms of talking to former players mostly. Certainly where they started. Now they talk to some current players as well. But they mostly focus on sports. And like a lot of people, they've been sort of branching out. But here we go. We got Vice President Harris on there. So they asked her the economic question. And you could probably guess what she said. I'm going to just back up just a tad bit so you can hear what she said.
And in particular through our community banks. Mm-hmm. So I've been responsible for billions of dollars more now going into our community banks because they're in the community and then they know who's in the community and where the talent is and who's doing good in the community, what the community wants. And so part of my plan as president is to give small businesses, startups, a tax deduction of $50,000 to start up. Because right now the tax deduction is $5,000.
Can't do nothing with that.
That's exactly right. And see, the thing we know is that most of our small business, our entrepreneurs who want to start a small business, got a great idea, have incredible work ethic, but they weren't handed a bunch of money on a silver tray. Right. And they just need to get their foot in the door. So there is that. There is what I need to do and what we need to do around making housing and rent more affordable. Part of the problem there is we have a housing supply shortage. My plan includes giving tax incentives for home builders to build 3 million more homes by the end of my first term to increase supply to bring down cost and to increase home ownership, a $25,000 down payment assistance to first-time home buyers.
Mm-hmm. Vistaprint prints everything you need to get your brand in front of your fans, like t-shirts, water bottles, totes.
Because again, people just need to get their foot in the door.
They'll grind after that.
Right? Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
They'll grind after
That's
that.
exactly right. Mm-hmm. And we know home ownership, especially for the community, that's the fastest, most effective, and most sure ways to build intergenerational wealth. Mm-hmm. It's then when your child says, I want to go to an HBCU or some other college, and you say, well, honey, you don't have to take out a student loan. I'm going to take some equity out of the house. Mm-hmm. Or your child says, I want to start up a small business, and you can say, let me take some equity and help you.
First, what is that business? Let me make sure it's not no belt plane.
Well, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. You have something to pull from.
Right, you have something where it's about intergenerational wealth. Because see, here's how I feel about the economy and the economy I want to grow. We have, over the last 4 years, reduced Black unemployment to the lowest it has been in decades. Okay, that is an accomplishment. Yep. However, I believe, need to measure our success not just only about everybody's working, but can you build wealth?
Mm-hmm. Can you start saving?
Can you start?
All right. So you see how this is going. So they had this conversation, and here she goes. She repeated a lot of the same talking points that she's had, and I'm gonna give her credit because this is my first time really listening to the whole thing like that, and so I'll give her some credit. She said some new things that I hadn't heard, so kudos, man. I am glad to hear that she added something to the plan and didn't just keep repeating the same message. But the challenge is, and this has been said by a lot of different people, there's really not a shortage. There's over 2 million, almost 2 million homes available across the country. So there's really not a shortage. The problem is cost. Cost is the problem. Wages aren't increasing at the level that they need to. And then when you go to buy a house, the cost of that house is too high. And so I fail to see, and some other people have criticized this. So this is not just my opinion. I've listened to people who do real estate on a major level talk about this. The challenge I see is how increasing the market and then adding $25,000 guaranteed from the government on top of all the other programs that we already know exist. The argument has been that's not going to increase or decrease pricing. That's actually going to increase pricing because they know you're going to get at least $25,000 extra from the government. So by any standard, the real estate guy says the price of the house is actually going up by at least $25,000 because they know you're getting this credit. So it sounds good. And when you listen to it say it does sound good, but there's some flaws in that plan. So I hope if she's elected, I hope they do some tweaking and figure out where the compromise is on that so that it doesn't end up falling flat on her face. The one thing I will note is, you notice there's a difference in her confidence and tone depending on who she's talking to. Because I'm listening to her talk to them and, they're not going to push back. They're just going to let her talk. And so there's a confidence that she expresses in that conversation. I remember a couple of days ago, she was talking to a reporter from MSNBC who was pushing back. And there was a frustration that I felt in her conversation, even slightly with the NABJ. When she talked to them, they didn't really push back, but there was still tension in the air in their conversation. So I wonder what that was about. The only thing I can assume is, Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson were probably over the moon thrilled to have the vice president on their show. So I'm sure they capitulated to whatever the necessary things they needed to in order to get her and have this interview. And so maybe that's where that confidence comes from, whereas others might have pushed back a little bit. But I'm going to hold her to the same criticism I did hold Biden to. And that criticism is when you're talking to all the smoke, you've talked to a few different reporters, and I will give you credit, you talked to NABJ, but I'd love to hear you talk to Roland Martin or Karen Hunter, someone who has the respect of the Black community in terms of journalism. That's what I want to see. Because all the smoke, they're not journalists. They're former NBA players who sit down, had a conversation. If you've never watched the show, sometimes they call it all the smoke because they smoke. For those that don't mean, I mean smoke marijuana. So there are episodes where they do just that with the guests, is smoke marijuana. So obviously they didn't do that with Vice President Harris, but that's who they are. That's what they do. It's supposed to be a relaxed environment. So it's not meant to be intense. It's not meant to be, this deep journalism dive. So I'd love to see that. But that's what it was. And if you go through and listen to it, I don't think you'll learn anything new, because they did a lot of fluff in the interview. But again, it's all the smoke. You're not getting journalism from all the smoke. It's all good though. They do an entertaining podcast. You probably would find that entertaining as long as you like Vice President Harris. But some other things that came across, as the internet does. The internet holds no chill, especially for people they are questioning. One of the things that has been going on in the news, and I've been following, but I'm going to leave it alone myself. A lot of people have been questioning, her blackness. Candace Owens is doing a deep dive over there on her podcast. She's going and looking at Ancestry.com. She's pulling death certificates, birth certificates. She's doing a deep dive. I'm going to let Candace do her thing, and if you want to go see it, go check it out. But the internet dropped this video the other day, and I just had to play this because this to me symbolizes why people question her blackness. Let's just take a listen to this video real quick.
Happy holidays, everyone. I wanted to take a moment to send my warmest wishes to everyone celebrating Kwanzaa. Like so many other holidays, we will be celebrating Kwanzaa a little differently this season in our home. We'll be doing it over Zoom. You know, my sister and I, we grew up celebrating Kwanzaa. Every year, our family and our extended family, we would gather around across multiple generations, and we tell stories. The kids would sit on the carpet, and the elders would sit in chairs, and we would light the candles, and of course, afterwards, have a beautiful meal. And of course, there was always the discussion of the 7 principles. And my favorite, I have to tell you, was always the one about self-determination, Kujichagulia. And, you know, essentially it's about be and do. Be the person you want to be and do the things you want to do and do the things that need to be done.
So she's been celebrating Kwanzaa since she was a little kid. Now this video got dropped during the pandemic, if you know, I don't know if you caught that. But the internet rehashed it, of course, and I just it came across my timeline. But when I saw this, I couldn't do nothing but laugh. I'm just like, really? You've been celebrating Kwanzaa since you were a little girl? Mind you, she was born, I believe the date is 1964, 1965. Kwanzaa didn't hit the U.S. on a national scale until I believe the late 90s. So you telling me this woman, raised by mainly a woman who was born in India, came to this country, I believe, as an immigrant, but they were celebrating Kwanzaa all her life? Really? I don't know anybody who celebrates Kwanzaa. Like, are you kidding me? This and so when you do things like this, it just brings the question marks. It brings the question marks as to, one, really? And then two, it's just like, okay, we got it. You want to be, you know, you're down with black people. I got it. You're down with black people. Okay. But this ain't it. Because I don't know no black people that celebrate Kwanzaa. I don't know nobody who even care about Kwanzaa, let alone have been celebrating it for over, what is she, about 60? 50 years? You been doing it for 50 years? You've been celebrating Kwanzaa for 50 years. Come on, man. This is about as bad as when she was talking about her greens and how she cleans her greens in the bathtub. Are you kidding me? You know how many black people gonna eat greens from a bathtub? 0. The moment you told them that you was cleaning greens in the bathtub, they would be like, you know what? I ain't eating them greens. Like, who made the greens, y'all? Come on, man, them greens. I ain't eating them greens. She cleaned greens in the bathtub. This is what I'm talking about, man. This is what we talking about. And don't, hey, man, y'all know it happened. It happened every Thanksgiving. You wonder, because everybody get a dish. And you're like, who brought that dish like that? Well, such brought that dish. Okay. You know, you show them how to cook, right? That's what we do. Now that's black. That's a black family. But you know what black families ain't doing? Celebrating Kwanzaa. And they surely ain't been celebrating 50 years. You know, and so it's that to me, videos like this, her washing greens in a bathtub, it just symbolizes someone who is chasing this approval that Michelle Obama wouldn't do this. That's my point. Like, If Michelle Obama was running, you know what she wouldn't be doing? Making videos talking about she's been celebrating Kwanzaa for 50 years. She wouldn't be telling you about how she be washing greens in the bathtub because she know y'all ain't gonna buy that. She know y'all gonna be looking crazy at her. She talking about she was washing greens in the bathtub. She been celebrating Kwanzaa for 50 years. Come on, man. Last point I'm just gonna make. I don't know if y'all saw this, but she is also doing the HBCU Homecoming Tour. Now, I saw this and I said, now, on one sense, I go, that's cool. But you know what black candidates typically don't do during election season? They don't do all this going to see black folk. Now, I think it's good. I think they should. I think they actually should. But you know why they don't? Because they already assume that y'all coming out in droves to vote for them. So they don't do the black thing. But you see, they're here doing all the black stuff. You know why? Because they're not sure if y'all coming to vote. I don't know. I don't know if they coming to vote. And so I get why you're chasing the HBCU too, especially the young people, because y'all know they ain't really motivated by her like that. But it goes to speak to the issues that people are bringing up about her and her authenticity. And that, to me, is the question. And it's the question I'm going to keep asking until I understand who she is. Because the other thing, and this will be my last point on this, I find it disingenuous that when you listen to her talk, you would think she grew up her entire life in the United States. But it's documented. She spent at minimum 6 years in Canada. Formative years, the teen years were all spent in Canada. I think she said she moved there at 12, and then, she graduated in Canada from high school, so, 12 to 18-ish, something like that. Those are your formative years. Those are the years where you feel you find your lasting relationships, or the beginning of your lasting relationships, right? Depending on your high school experience. And so I find it disingenuous that I don't hear. Why you don't talk about that time? That had to be a big deal for you, like it is for most kids in high school. I don't hear you talk about that time. Why not? Why are you trying to convince me that you were here for 18? You've been here your whole life. It's okay that you left. It's called being a person. It's called experiencing things that were out of your control. I get it. Maybe you wanted to be here the whole time, but your mama took you to Canada for a while. That had to affect you on some level. Why don't you talk about that? Why you just cross out that whole experience in your life? I'm just saying. These things don't make sense to me. And these are the reasons why I keep asking these questions. Who is Vice President Harris? And on that note, I'm B. Period. And I'm out.